Hello, my name is Morgan. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing a video that I didn't think I was going to do, but I woke up this morning and I saw a bunch of other people still posting their 22 books to read in 2022 videos, and I thought, what the heck? Let's do it. Let's see what I can come up with as a reading list for this year. My goal this year is about 60 books. This list should make up like a third of the books that I'm going to read this year. Should. This video also sort of doubles as my entire physical TBR list because I just went to my bookshelves and was like, what are 22 books that I already own that I can read to make sure that I am reading books I already own before buying new ones. So most of the books on this list are ones that I currently have on my shelves. Some of them are ones that I just got for Christmas. Some of them are ones I've been meaning to read for literally years and haven't gotten around to. So 2022 is the year, especially because I know there are many more books that I want to buy in 2022, so I better be reading the books I currently own to justify those purchases. I have already finished some books that would have been on this list this year, including Piranesi, which was phenomenal, They Never Learn, which was decent, and what I talk about when I talk about running. I'm also almost done 2001: A Space Odyssey, so it's already been a good reading year, but let's talk about some more books I want to read this year. This list has 5 historical fictions, and then 5 non-fictions, and then 12 science fictions. If you're just here for the sci-fi, then you can skip ahead a bit. I'll have like the timestamps in the description. Let's start with book number 1. Here's a book that I've had for a couple of years now and haven't started reading yet. In general, historical fiction is a genre that I haven't read much from, but I am interested in, and I've accumulated a bunch of historical fiction books that I haven't read, so I need to get into this genre. But this is Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie's book, Half of a Yellow Sun. I've wanted to read Ngozi Adichie for a while, and this is the book that I chose to start with. I also have Americana on my shelf. The back of the book says that the book illuminates a seminal moment in African history, Biafra's struggle to establish an independent republic in southeastern Nigeria during the late 1960s. And we are following 5 different characters throughout this time. So that's book number 1. Book number 2 you've seen on this channel before. It is Pachinko by Min Jin Lee. This book follows 4 generations of a single family. It starts with a woman in the early 1900s. She discovers that she's pregnant, but her lover is married, and so she sort of flees that situation, and she accepts an offer of marriage from a man who's on his way to Japan. So she moves from Korea to Japan. I've heard phenomenal things. It's a National Book Award finalist. That's book number 2. Again, one I've mentioned a couple times but still haven't read. It is Maggie O'Farrell's Hamnet, and this was the winner of the Women's Prize for Fiction. This is about Shakespeare's wife and son, but it sort of decenters Shakespeare from his own narrative. This is one that I bought recently, and actually is the first book that I'm reading with my little book club of friends this year. It's called She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan. The back of the book simply says, "To possess the mandate of heaven, the monk Zhu will do anything." And Goodreads says that the book is a bold, queer, and lyrical reimagining of the rise of the founding emperor of the Ming Dynasty from an amazing new voice in literary fantasy. So it says it's a fantasy. Can a fantasy be historical fiction? Anyway, A Gentleman in Moscow. This is about a man who is sentenced to carry out the rest of his days in a fancy hotel, and while he is there, fate puts the life of a young girl in his hands, and he must draw on all his ingenuity to protect the future she deserves. On to the nonfiction. Book number 6 is Viktor E. Frankl's text, Man's Search for Meaning. Frankl is a Holocaust survivor, and he was a professor of psychiatry and neurology at the University of Vienna. So from what I know, this is a rather stoic meditation on how to live through life's struggles. He developed a form of therapy that I believe is outlined in this book. Book number 7, Daniel Kahneman's Thinking Fast and Slow. Been meaning to read this for a while now. I think it's based on the work that Kahneman did with Tversky to win the Nobel Prize in Economics. Next up, a pretty new book written during the pandemic, which is Cultish, The Language of Fanaticism by Amanda Montell. I love Amanda Montell's podcast as well, and this book is exactly what it sounds like. based on the title. I've heard great things, so I'm looking forward to picking that up. Next, again, this has been on my shelf for quite a while, The Sense of Style, The Thinking Person's Guide to Writing in the 21st Century by Steven Pinker. There are numerous books on writing that are on my TBR list, some of them physical, but I think this is the main one that I want to make sure I get to this year, as well as Umberto Eco's How to Write a Thesis, because goodness knows I need to know now. Book number 10 of this list is Daring Greatly, How the Courage to be Vulnerable Transforms the Way We Live, Love, Parent, and Lead by Brené Brown. I've had this for over a year now, and I've been wanting to read Brené Brown. In general, I like self-help books, so looking forward to that. The last 12 books on this list are, I believe, all sci-fi, so that's pretty exciting. I definitely have learned this year that sci-fi is probably my favorite genre, so I need to start reading more of that. The first one being a classic, Neuromancer by William Gibson. This inspired like a whole genre of fiction. It directly inspired a couple games that I want to play, including Netrunner, a board game that I own, and Cyberpunk, the video game. It did win the Hugo, Nebula, and Philip K. Dick Awards. All of them. So, there you go. Next is Dune Messiah by Frank Herbert. Clearly, this is a sequel to Dune, which I read just over a year ago, and I am interested in continuing with the series. Not much more to be said about that. Dan Simmons' book, Hyperion. Again, a Hugo Award-winning novel. I've heard great things. Don't really know what it's about, but the back of the book says, on the world called Hyperion, there waits the creature called the Shrike. There are those who worship it, there are those who fear it, and there are those who have vowed to destroy it. Hyperion. Next one is actually a book of short stories. Clearly, there are very many famous and well-loved and phenomenal sci-fi short stories, but I've never read any of them, so that changes this year. And this is Ted Chiang's Stories of Your Life and Others. And Stories of Your Life is actually the title of the short story that inspired the movie Arrival. And I loved Arrival, so I'm gonna do a rewatch this year and I'm gonna read this whole collection. Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. I think this is about some students at a boarding school, but they don't actually know the true purpose of their boarding school. I'm pretty sure it is a science fiction. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna like it, but I don't think I want to know too much going in. Another one that I don't know much about what it's about, but I've heard great things and I know I need to read it, and that is Neil Stephenson's book, Snow Crash. Basically all I know is that this is the book that coined the term metaverse, and it says, in the real world, hero protagonist delivers pizza, but in the metaverse, he's a warrior prince. One author that has 2 books on this list of books I want to read in 2022 is Jeff Vandermeer. I want to start the Southern Reach trilogy, so read at least the first book called Annihilation. This book is about 4 female scientists who are from different disciplines, and they are going to explore this area called Area X that has been cut off from the rest of the world for decades. And when they arrive, they realize that the rules of nature as they understand them do not apply here. And then the other one is called Born. Born is about a woman who finds this discarded experiment from something called The Company, which is a biotech firm now seemingly derelict. And this thing is called Born, and she takes it home and starts taking care of it, I guess. I hear that Vandermeer writes weird sci-fi, and I would say if there's a niche within sci-fi that I like, it's weird sci-fi. So I think Vandermeer is going to be a new favorite author, and I'm looking forward to finding out if he is. These next books are ones that I don't have yet. The first one is Leviathan Wakes, the first book in the Expanse series by James S.A. Corey, which I think is a pen name for 2 authors. I've heard great things about the TV show, which I want to watch, but I first want to read the books, which I've also heard great things about. This is one that I'm probably going to buy myself because I think the cover art is so beautiful for all of the books. It looks like it is about the crew of a mining ship who find a derelict ship, the Scopuli, and they find themselves in possession of a secret they never wanted. I'm almost certain that I'm going to enjoy it. And for the last 3 books, I hope I've got the numbers right, I wanted to read some female sci-fi authors because all of those previous books I mentioned, what do they have in common? They're all written by men. I've read Asimov and I've read Herbert and I've read Dick, and I'm about to read Neil Stephenson and William Gibson, and I'm just like, where are the women? So I want to read two classic sci-fi female authors. The first being Ursula K. Le Guin. I think I'm going to read The Left Hand of Darkness, and the description for this book sounds phenomenal. It says that the book tells the story of a lone human emissary to Winter, an alien world whose inhabitants can choose and change their gender. His goal is to facilitate Winter's inclusion in a growing intergalactic civilization, but to do so he must bridge the gulf between his own views and those of the completely dissimilar culture that he encounters. Wow, does that not sound like it's going to be mind-blowing? It does. And the other female sci-fi writer that I want to read from is, you guessed it, Octavia E. Butler. The first book that has been actually lately making its rounds on BookTube is Parable of the Sower, so I want to read that. In 2025, with the world descending into madness and anarchy, one woman begins a fateful journey toward a better future. And the other really famous one by Butler is Kindred, and the description for this one says, having just celebrated her 26th birthday in 1976 California, Dana, an African-American woman, is suddenly and inexplicably wrenched through time into antebellum Maryland. After saving a drowning white boy there, she finds herself staring into the barrel of a shotgun and is transported back to the present just in time to save her life. During numerous such time-defying episodes with the same young man, she realizes the challenge she's been given. That sounds so good. Okay, it's gonna be a phenomenal year of reading. Even if I just read those 22 books this year, that's already a big success. I am so excited to embark on a new year of reading with all of you here on BookTube. It's so exciting and inspiring and motivating to see all of the books that you're planning on reading this year, and if you want to read any of the books that I'm reading this year, maybe we can talk about them together, so let me know. I'll see you all in another video soon, and happy reading, everyone!